Hello and welcome to Wolf Hall. And this time it's not so much of a lie as it was in episode one. Episode one of Thomas Lord Cromwell was very un-Wolf Hall-y, it has to be said. And if you came here hoping for some very close-quartered Tudor politics in the court of Henry VIII, you'd be quite disappointed because, frankly, you got none of that. We got something which was much more akin to a city comedy on tour, shall we say, a sort of Tudor on the buses on holiday kind of thing. No, that's a horrible, horrible lie. It wasn't anything like that. The story so far: Tom Cromwell took a gap year from his father's place of employee and went interrailing round Europe, where he got mugged, had all his money nicked, but eventually, due to the kindness of strangers, was able to pick up a wealthy patron. We pick up the story after that, in which is variously labelled as different parts of Act 3, depending on the edition you're working on. But don't worry, if you need to ease in a moment, there's going to be a chorus telling you what the hell is going on. To help navigate this text, we have a team of fabulous readers. Oh, we're positively overflowing with readers today. So, who do we have reading? Well, first up, reading the part of Bedford, First Merchant and Lieutenant is...
Hi, I'm Valentina. I'm an actor and voiceover artist, and I'm based in London.
And reading the part of Norfolk, Frisky Ball, returning, and Sergeant is...
Alexandra. I too act professionally and am very excited about the name Frisky Ball.
As are we all. Reading the part of Messenger, Old Cromwell, Second Witness, and Sadler is...
Hi. Ooh, I'm not him. I'm me, David Finlay. I'm mostly human.
And reading the part of Hales, Seeley, Second Merchant, and Son is...
Hiya, my name's Simon Nader, and I'm entirely human and beard, mostly.
Excellent. These are getting more abstract as we go. Reading the part of Chorus, Hodge, First Witness, and First Citizen is...
Hello, I'm Sarah, and I've no idea how to follow that, so I'm just going to say I'm a writer, actor, and director.
And reading the part of Moore, Wife, Servant, and Hangman is...
Hi, I'm Liz Hill, and I'm in North Devon.
And reading the part of Wolsey and Second Citizen is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good, and I'm a historian.
Reading the part of Suffolk, Bannister, and Officer is...
Hi, I'm Alan Scott, based in Suffolk, not a professional actor.
Reading the part of Gardner and Mistress Bannister is...
Hi, I'm Tamara. I don't know what happened, but I am human and an actor, and usually in London, but currently in Germany.
And finally, reading the part of Thomas Cromwell is...
Hello, I'm Pamela. Not entirely sure if I'm human. Tried to grow a beard for today, failed.
And I am your host, Robert Crighton. I'm mostly human. And I am reading the stage directions because ultimately the best part available for bar mitzvahs, parties, weddings, etc. So without further ado, let's crack on with the break in the play that is the chorus, as we tee up some action that our listeners and viewers may be more familiar with. Enter chorus. Currently muted.
Unmuted now. Thus far you see how Cromwell's fortune passed. The Earl of Bedford, being safe in Mantua, desires Cromwell's company into France to make requital for his courtesy. But Cromwell doth deny the Earl his suit, and tells him that those parts he meant to see, he had not yet set footing on the land, and so directly takes his way to Spain, the Earl to France, and so they both do part. Now, let your thoughts, as swift as is the wind, skip some few years that Cromwell spent in travel. And now imagine him to be in England, servant unto the Master of the Rolls, where in short time he there began to flourish. An hour shall show you what few years did cherish.
And thus exits the chorus, and the scene shifts. Music plays, and there is a banquet brought out into Sir Christopher Hales and Cromwell and 2 servants.
Come, sirs, be careful of your master's credit, and as our bounty now exceeds the figure of common entertainment, so do you, with looks as free as is your master's soul, give formal welcome to the thronged tables that shall receive the cardinal's followers and the attendance of the Lord Chancellor. But all my care, Cromwell, depends on thee. Thou art a man differing from vulgar form, and by how much thy spirit is ranked above these in rules of art, by so much it shines brighter by travel whose observance pleads his merit in a most learned, yet unaffecting spirit. Good Cromwell, cast an eye of fair regard about all my house, and what this ruder flesh through ignorance or wine do miscreate, salve thou with courtesy. If welcome want, full bowls and ample banquets will seem scant.
Sir, whatsoever lies in me, assure you I will show my utmost duty.
And exit Cromwell.
About it, then. The lords will straight be here. Cromwell, thou hast those parts would rather suit the service of the state than of my house. I look upon thee with a loving eye that one day will prefer thy destiny.
And enter messenger.
Sir, the lords be at hand.
They are welcome. Bid Cromwell straight attend us, and look you all things be in perfect readiness.
And exit the messenger. Music plays once again. And enter Cardinal Wolsey, Sir Thomas More, and Gardner, and possibly even Cromwell separately in the distance.
Oh, Sir Christopher, you are too liberal. What? A banquet too?
My lords, if words could show the ample welcome that my free heart affords you, I could then become a praetor, but I now must deal like a feast politician with your lordships. Defer your welcome till the banquet end, that it may then salve our defect of fare. Yet welcome now, and all that tend on you.
Thanks to the kind master of the rolls. Come and sit down, Sir Thomas More. 'Tis strange how we and the Spaniard do differ. Their dinner is our banquet after dinner, and they are men of active disposition. This I gather, that by their sparing meat, their body is more fitter for the wars. And if that famine chance to pinch their maws, being used to fast, it breeds less pain.
Fill me some wine. I'll answer Cardinal Wolsey, my lord, we English are of more freer souls than hunger-starved and ill-complexioned Spaniards. They that are rich in Spain spare belly food to deck their backs with an Italian hood and silks of civil. And the poorest snake that feeds on lemons, pilchers, and near heated his palate with sweet flesh will bear a case more fat and gallant than his starved face. Pride, the Inquisition, and this belly evil are, in my judgment, Spain's three-headed devil.
Indeed, it is a plague upon their nation, who stagger after in blind imitation.
My lords, with welcome, I present your lordships a solemn health.
I love health well, but when as health do bring pain to the head and body surfeiting, then cease I healths. Nay, spill not, friend, for though the drops be small, yet have they force to force men to the wall.
Sir Christopher, is that your man?
And like your grace, he is a scholar and a linguist, one that hath travelled many parts of Christendom, my lord.
My friend, come nearer. Have you been a traveller?
My lord, I have added to my knowledge the Low Countries, France, Spain, Germany, and Italy, And though small gain of profit I did find, yet did it please my eye, content my mind.
What do you think of the several states and princes' courts as you have travelled?
My lord, no court with England may compare, neither for state nor civil government. Lust dwells in France, in Italy, and Spain, from the poor peasant to the prince's train. In Germany and Holland riot serves, and he that most can drink, most he deserves. England I praise not, for I here was born, and that she laugheth the others unto scorn.
My lord, there dwells within that spirit more than can be discerned by outward eye. Sir Christopher, will you part with your man?
I have sought to proffer him to your lordship, and now I see he hath preferred himself.
What is thy name?
Cromwell, my lord.
Then, Cromwell, here we make thee solicitor of our causes, and nearest next ourself. Gardener, give you kind welcome to the man.
And Gardiner embraces him.
My lord, you are a royal whiner, have got a man besides your bounteous dinner. Well, knight, pray we come no more. If we come often, thou mayst shut thy door.
Sir Christopher hath given me half thy... Sir Christopher, hadst thou given me half thy lands, thou couldst not have pleased me so much as with this man of thine. My infant thoughts do spell, shortly his fortune shall be lifted higher. True industry doth kindle honour's fire, and so, kind master of the rolls, farewell.
Cromwell, farewell.
Cromwell takes his leave of you, that ne'er will leave to love and honour you.
And they exit, music playing as they go. Lots of interesting things there. I like the fact that we've got this conversation happening with these lordly figures, and Cromwell's just hanging around in the background, and he's listening to what they're saying because his answer seems very much based on the reading the room there. I don't know whether he actually thinks any of that.
It's a job interview.
Yeah, it's a job. Yeah, exactly. And it's a really interesting scene. It's a very different kind of scene, I think, to some of the stuff we've had before. I don't know how are we feeling about this. Thoughts in the room. Wave.
Quick
Alexandra,
question, if I may.
So Alan, then Alexandra.
Gardner. I know who Moore is. I know Wolsey is. Hales, presumably, is Master of the Rolls, but who is Gardner?
Bishop of Winchester.
Ah, right. Thank you.
Yes, we've got a very different set of characters dancing around on this stage. Alexandra.
I just wanted to say it's really interesting how quickly and clearly the characters get established. If you don't know much about them, their position isn't something that we're told about, as if that's not important. It's about their sort of perspective on life and food and the nation and the Spanish. But by just focusing on that and being very brief about it, we get a really clear distinction between these people based on their attitudes. You know, we get more very clearly. The only thing he says is, "I don't think drink is a good idea," and already that's placed him in contrast with everybody else. And I think the same is true with Wolsey and Hales. You know, we get very clear distinctions.
Mm. And we get that interesting sort of aside from Hales as well about, you know, saying how great Cromwell is. I mean, is Hales to some degree making sure he's in the room because he wants to help his little, his protege forward or something along those lines? How much of this is a setup? Wave. Helen.
It's all a setup. It's a plan. Hales wants his man, a man who is beholden to him in Wolsey's household, and he fixes it. And the only thing that is slightly surprising is the speed with which Wolsey takes him on, except Wolsey says, "Sir Christopher, is that your man?" And I think that this indicates that Wolsey knows that he's come to interview someone.
Yes, it's not necessarily true that Sir Thomas More or Gardiner know that the interview is going on, but you get the impression Wolsey definitely does. We get Gardiner embracing him as well, which is interesting.
Because they're both going to be fellow servants in Wolsey's household. Because Gardiner, I think, at this time is not a bishop. He's a more junior cleric.
Yeah.
Let's just see at the top.
Excuse me for a second. There's my current.
Yeah. Yes. At the top of this, he's not down as bishop. I think it's what's going to happen next. Is literally he becomes bishop. So he's not that important yet. But that's it for Act 3. Regardless of how you break it up, we have now definitely got to the end of Act 3. And I'm going to rattle forward with Act 4. Unless anyone wants to wave their arm enthusiastically in front of me, we will move forward.
I am back. Sorry.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So there's another chorus. So this was a very brief moment before the chorus once again, with music presumably fading in the background as the chorus steps forward.
Now Cromwell's highest fortunes doth begin. Wolsey, that loved him as he did his life, committed all his treasure to his hands. Wolsey is dead, and Gardiner, his man, is now created Bishop of Winchester. Pardon if we omit all Wolsey's life, because our play depends on Cromwell's death. Now sit and see his highest state of all, his height of rising and his sudden fall. Pardon, the errors is already past, and live in hope the best doth come at last. My hope upon your favour doth depend, and look to have your liking ere the end.
So yeah, it doesn't ask swiftly. It's like Wolsey's dead.
Wolsey's dead.
There's the first couple hundred pages of Wolf Hall dispensed with in
All the better for it.
whole day's worth of reading. He's dead. There we are.
Yeah, why ever did I read that book?
Skip to the end.
Yes. Okay, we'll move forward because I don't want to linger on that too much. Cromwell's going to die, people, by the way, just in case you didn't know. So, enter for the next scene Gardiner, now Bishop of Winchester, the Dukes of Norfolk and of Suffolk, Sir Thomas More, Sir Christopher Hales, and Cromwell.
Master Cromwell, since Cardinal Wolsey's death, His Majesty is given to understand there are certain bills and writings in your hand that much concerns the state of England. My Lord of Winchester, is it not so?
My Lord of Norfolk, we too wear whilom fellows, and Master Cromwell, though our master's love did bind us, while his love was to the king, it is not boot now to deny these things, which may be prejudicial to the state. And though that God hath raised my fortune higher than any way I looked for or deserved, yet my life no longer with me dwell. Then I prove true unto my sovereign. What say you, Master Cromwell? Have you those writings? Aye or no?
Here are the writings, and upon my knees I give them up unto the worthy Dukes of Suffolk and of Norfolk. He was my master, and each virtuous part that lived in him I tendered with my heart. But what his head complotted against the state, my country's love commands me that to hate. His sudden death I grieve for, not his fall. because he sought to work my country's thrall.
Cromwell, the king shall hear of this thy duty, whom I assure myself will well reward thee. My lord, let's go unto his majesty and show these writings which he longs to see.
Exit Norfolk and Suffolk and enter Bedford of first half fame, entering hastily.
Oh, now, who's this? Cromwell, by my soul, welcome to England. Thou once didst save my life, didst not, Cromwell?
If I did so, 'tis greater glory for me that you remember it than of myself vainly to report it.
Well, Cromwell, now is the time. I shall commend thee to my sovereign. Cheer up thyself, for I will raise thy state. A Russell yet was ne'er found ingrate.
And he exits.
Oh, how uncertain is the wheel of state! Who lately greater than the cardinal for fear and love, and now who lower lies? Gay honours are but fortune's flatteries, in whom this day pride and promotion swells, tomorrow envy and ambition quells.
Who sees the cobweb entangle the poor fly may boldly say the wretch's death is nigh.
I knew his state and proud ambition was too violent to last over long.
Who soars too near the sun with golden wings melts them, to ruin his own fortune brings.
Enter the Duke of Suffolk.
Cromwell, kneel down in King Henry's name. Arise, Sir Thomas Cromwell, thus begins thy fame.
Enter the Duke of Norfolk.
Cromwell, the majesty of England, for the good liking he conceives of thee, makes thee master of the jewel house, chief secretary to himself, and withal creates thee one of his highness's privy council.
Enter the Earl of Bedford.
Where is Sir Thomas Cromwell? Is he knighted?
He is, my lord.
Then, to add honour to his name, the king creates him Lord Keeper of his Privy Seal, and Master of the Rolls, which you, Sir Christopher, do now enjoy. The king determines higher place for you.
My lords, these honours are too high for my desert.
Oh, content thee, man. Who would not choose it? Yet thou art wise in seeming to refuse it.
His honours, titles, and promotions, I fear this climbing will have a sudden fall.
Then come, my lords, let's all together bring this new-made counsellor to England's king.
Exit all except for Gardner.
But Gardner means his glory shall be dimmed. Shall Cromwell live a greater man than I? My envy with his honour now is bred. I hope to shorten Cromwell by the head.
And as he exits, the ghost of Bagot from the first half rises from his grave. Wow, that packs an awful lot of stuff in. There's this really tricksy sort of action at the very beginning, so it's sort of just after Cardinal Wolsey's death. It's who's on whose side, who's which faction are you belonging to? And then suddenly Bedford pops in and goes, "Hi, remember me? I was in the first half," and then literally pops out again. And you get this chance for people to sort of do a bit of wittering. Well, I say wittering, sort of plotting or questioning and things. And then suddenly, Cromwell is being knighted and risen, and all these things suddenly happen to him, one after the other. Thoughts about this scene? Fascinating scene.
It really is as if the studio heads have taken the director's vision and just been, don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. This is the cinema release. So
yeah, the director did not get final cut approval, did he?
Definitely not. No, I'll wait for the Blu-ray.
Sarah.
I'm finding it really entertaining the way Cromwell manages to be knighted and made keeper of the jewel house and everything without Henry actually appearing. I assume that would have been frowned upon. They couldn't actually put him in the play. Is that why he doesn't appear?
Yes, pretty much that's the thinking. It's just before the death of Elizabeth, and it's only after Elizabeth is dead and we're moving on to a segueing to a slightly different royal house that the appearance of the king is fine.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, he's always off stage. He's always off stage. David.
Cromwell doesn't do anything. He didn't do anything in the first half. He was around when things were happening, but we never see him do anything. Things happen to him. Well, we've got to go on hearsay that he's a good guy, but he's not really doing anything.
Liz?
He hands out money because he's generous, isn't he? I mean, that's what he does. He shows his benevolence, I suppose.
Everyone thinks he's obviously capable. There's lots of stuff going on. Sarah?
He did come up with that plot yesterday to get Bedford out of Bononia. So, I mean, he was quite useful there. That was him in action, I suppose.
Alexandra, I thought I saw your hand.
Yes, I was just going to say, besides that moment, yes, he doesn't seem to do anything that has effect on the plot. There are bits where we are shown what he is, or, you know, we get sort of clarification on his good character, whether it's because people are saying some things or because of what he does. But I think there's a distinction between is and does that is kind of important, because there's no, I don't know if this is a construction of if we are watching the construction of almost a personality cult. You know, he's such a nice man. Isn't he a nice man? He's such a nice man. Look at all the good things that are happening to the nice man. And then his downfall.
David, I saw you waving again.
No, honestly, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, Helen.
I think it's an example of how it is practically impossible to dramatise good administration.
That's an excellent point. Simon?
Yeah. I was just going to say, just with reference, just picking up what Alexandra said, actually, just reference to the scene we did before this, you see the kind of the political nature of Cromwell, I think, very cleverly, in that when he answers about, you know, where have you travelled, how have you travelled, he very cleverly, I think anyway, says, oh, these places, but nothing compares to England, which of course is a political animal, is a very, very good response. So I think you see the character there, but I still think that there's moments of this kind of political nature that he has.
There's a lot going on here that he's manoeuvring, and I think the thing about Cromwell is that he's there. He's present, he's doing things. And I think that's the visual aspect of that scene before, where he didn't actually say that much in the scene, but they're all eating, they're all chatting, but Cromwell is there. And I wonder if that's an aspect. Alan, were you wanting to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, the thought that Helen came out with was one that occurred to me, that effectively a good administrator is practically invisible. You know, he's getting on with things, and you only notice when they screw up.
Right. I think for the moment we'll pause on thoughts and see where else we're going to go, because, well, where are we going? We're going to see Frisky Ball again. Frisky Ball in the first half. The saviour of everyone who turns up and just hands out money and loans people money when they can't afford it. He's just such a great guy, you know. Him and his lending out money, except what's the first stage direction to Act 4, Scene 2? Enter Frisky Ball. Very poor.
Oh, Frisky Ball, what shall become of thee? Where shalt thou go, or which way shalt thou turn? Fortune, that turns her too unconstant wheel, hath turned thy wealth and riches in the sea. All parts abroad, wherever I have been, grow weary of me, and denies me succour. My debtors, they that should relieve my want, forswear my money. Say they owe me none. They know my state too mean to bear out law. And here in London, where I oft have been, and have done good to many a wretched man, I am now most wretched here, despite myself. In vain it is more of their hearts to try. Be patient, therefore. Lay thee down and die.
And indeed he lays himself down. Enter Goodman Seeley and his wife Joan.
Come, Joan, come. Let's see what he'll do for us now. A wish we have done for him, when many a time and often he might have gone a hungry to bed.
Alas, man, now he is made a lord, he'll never look upon us. He'll fulfil the old proverb, set beggars a horseback and they'll ride. Oh, well a day for my cow. Such as he hath made us come behind hand, such as he hath made us come behind hand, we had never pawned our cow else to pay our rent.
Well, Joan, he'll come this way, and by God's dickers, I'll tell him roundly of it. And if he were 10 lords, I shall know that I had not my cheese and my bacon for nothing.
Do you remember, husband, how he would mooch up to my cheesecakes? He hath forgot this now, but we'll remember him.
Aye, we shall have now 3 flaps with a fox tail. But, if faith, I'll gibber a joint, but I'll tell him his own. Stay, who comes here? Oh, stand up, here he comes, stand up.
And enter Hodge, very fine with a tipstaff. Cromwell, the mace carried before him, Norfolk and Suffolk and attendants.
Come away with these beggars here. Rise up, sirrah. Come out, the good people. Run a foe there, ho!
Frisky Ball riseth and stands afar off.
Aye, we are kicked away. Now we come for our own. The time hath been he would have looked more friendly upon us. And you, Hodge, we know you well enough, though you are so fine.
Come hither, sirrah. Stay. What men are these? My honest host of Hounslow and his wife. I owe thee money, father, do I not?
Aye, by the body of me, doest thou. Would thou wouldst pay me good £4 it is. I have at a post at home.
I know 'tis true. Sirrah, give him 10 angels, and look after your wife, and you do stay to dinner. And while you live, I freely give to you £4 a year for the £4 I ought you.
Art not changed, art old Tom still. Now, God bless the good Lord Tom. Home, Joan, home. I'll dine with my Lord Tom today, and thou shalt come next week. Fetch my cow. Home, Joan, home.
Now, God bless thee, my good Lord Tom. I'll fetch my cow presently.
Exit wife to fetch the cow. Sadly, the cow will not make an appearance later. Enter gardener.
Sirrah, go to yon stranger. Tell him I desire him stay at dinner. I must speak with him.
Gardener?
I'm muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, yes.
Okay, great. Sorry. Sirrah, go to yon stranger. Tell him I desire him stay at dinner. I must speak with him.
No, that was Cromwell.
That was the line before me. What's happening? My lord of Norfolk, see you, this same bubble, that same puff. But mark the end, my lord, mark the end. Sorry, my document just jumped up.
I'd like not something he hath done, but let that pass. The king doth love him well.
Good morrow to my lord of Winchester. I know you bear me hard about the abbey lands.
Have I not reason when religion is wronged? You had no colour for what you have done.
Yes, the abolishing of Antichrist and of this popish order from our realm. I am no enemy to religion, but what is done, it is for England's good. What did they serve for but to feed a sort of lazy abbots and a full-fed friars? They neither plough nor sow, and yet they reap the fat of all the land and suck the poor. Look, what was theirs is in King Henry's hands. His wealth before lay in the abbey lands.
Indeed, these things you have alleged, my lord, when God doth know the infant yet unborn will curse the time the abbeys were pulled down. I pray now, where is hospitality? Where now may poor distressed people go, for to relieve their needs or rest their bones, when weary travel doth oppress their limbs? And where religious men should take them in, shall now be kept back with a mastiff, do?
Should be dog. I apologise.
A mastiff dog, and thousand.
Oh, my lord, no more. Things past redress, 'tis bootless to complain.
What? Shall we to the convocation house?
We'll follow you, my lord. I pray lead the way.
At this point, enter old Cromwell like a farmer.
How? One Cromwell made Lord Keeper since I left Putney and dwelt in Yorkshire. I never heard better news. I'll see that Cromwell, or it shall go hard.
My aged father, state set aside. Father, on my knee I crave your blessing. One of my servants go and have him in. At better leisure will we talk with him.
Now, if I die, how happy were the day to see this comfort rains forth showers of joy.
And exit old Cromwell.
This duty in him shows a kind of grace.
Go on before, for time draws on apace.
Exit all except for Frisky Ball.
I wonder what this lord would have with me. His man so strictly gave me charge to stay. I never did offend him, to my knowledge. Well, good or bad, I mean to bide it all. Worse than I am now never can befall.
And at this point, enter Bannister and his wife. Bannister. That should be Alan.
Your pardon. Come, wife, I take it be almost dinner time, for Master Newton and Master Crosby sent to me last night. They would come dine with me and take their bond in. I pray thee, hie thee home, and see that all things be in readiness.
They shall be welcome, husband. I'll go before. But is not that man Master Frisky Ball?
And she runs and embraces him.
Oh, heavens, it is kind Master Frisky Ball. Say, sir, what hap hath brought you to this pass?
The same that brought you to your misery.
Why would you not acquaint me with your state? Is Bannister your poor friend quite forgot, whose goods, whose love, whose life, and all is yours?
I thought your usage would be as the rest, that had more kindness at my hands than you, yet looked askance when as they saw me poor.
If Bannister should bear so base a heart, I never would look my husband in the face, but hate him as I would a cockatrice.
And well thou mightest, should Bannister deal so. Since that I saw you, sir, my state is mended, and for the £1,000 I owe to you, I have it ready for you, sir, at home. And though I grieve your fortune is so bad, yet that my hap's to help you make me glad. And now, sir, will it please you walk with me?
Not yet I cannot, for the Lord Chancellor hath here commanded me to wait on him, for what I know not. Pray God it is for my good.
Never make a doubt of that, I'll warrant you. He is as kind a noble gentleman as ever did possess the place he hath.
Sir, my brother is his steward. If you please, will go along and bear you company. I know we shall not want for welcome there.
With all my heart. But what's become of Bagot?
He is hanged for buying jewels of the king's.
A just reward for one so impious. The time draws on. Sir, will you go along?
I'll follow you, kind Master Frisky Ball.
And they exit. So we get a little wrapping up, perhaps, of some of the things from yesterday. Frisky Ball. I think it's an interesting point to note that you need money to sue people to get your money back. People who owe you money, and I think that's a really interesting point. He's not technically, completely bankrupt. It's just he can't extract his debts from other people.
Plus ça change.
Well, he's also lost his rather evil lawyer, so he's been hanged.
I don't think Bagot was ever his lawyer.
No, he was a broker, but there was that element of the question of extracting debts from people. He wasn't very good at it. That's why he's ended up poor.
It's because it was Bagot's original thing was working on behalf of Frisky Ball against Bannister. Yeah.
I kept expecting, sorry, I interrupted there without raising my hand, but I kept expecting Cromwell to suddenly appear at the end and go, ha ha, this is why I called you here, so that you could meet up and settle your debts, and everybody is now happy, and I have arranged this. And
Well, he doesn't have time. He
No.
waved to Frisky Ball. You know, when he says, go to yon stranger, that's to Frisky Ball, you know. So give him a helping hand. Send him over to the, you know, my man. He'll sort him out. It'll be okay. I mean, he does give money in this scene. He does do that generous money. The fourth time, I think, in the play, he's given money to some random person. So there's a certain amount of what goes around comes around. David, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I was going to say we do see him doing good acts and see him being generous and actually being active as opposed to being passive while good things happen around him.
Yeah, I just thought they'd make it more. It was just so lovely there, the way all the people that Cromwell has helped have all come together and they're helping each other out now. It's like, see what he has created. He's like the Deus ex machina in this scene, isn't he? And I just kind of expected him to put in a little appearance.
Well, I say, in a sense, his job is done because he's got and it's interesting when he says "my aged father." You know, his father randomly turns up. But he says set aside. Is that him putting down his mace and, you know, hold that for a moment while I talk to my father? It felt like a bit of business to go with it. But also in the middle of this, we've got Cromwell and Gardner squaring off on, you know, the Reformation, essentially. Helen.
Yeah, that squaring off on the Reformation neatly summarises what whole libraries of books have been written to discuss. It's
yes.
It's quite amusing.
Yes, I am no enemy to religion, says Cromwell. Yeah, there's a statement for all those religious houses that he has just wantonly raided.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, who said what? I heard a noise. I don't know who said it.
I think someone was on a phone call.
Oh, okay. We got something random. Okay. Who's waving? Who's waving? Alexandra.
I was going to add to the "I am no enemy to religion" thing that yes, it's very, again, it's very brief and it's very sort of reduced. But the point that he is making is it's, you know, the dissolution of the monasteries is all about taking the money away from, you know, the fat abbots who do no work and so on. And I thought that was, as Helen says, that was really interesting. How again we're getting a very compressed but very clear understanding of you know, character, but also of relationships and of much bigger, much deeper kind of problems in that world, if you see what I mean. So earlier with the feast, with the comments on the Spanish and on, you know, what constitutes good food and so on, again, that's a lot. That says a lot more about the Anglo-Spanish relationship and the position that Wolsey holds, and, you know, so much more than what is actually in the dialogue. And it's interesting to me how we are finding this very episodic, but I wonder whether in a production, you know, in the visuals, we'd be able to show, or I don't know how that would be done, but in the visuals, to indicate a lot more that is going on, and a lot more depth and sort of breadth to these things that we are finding, you know, a bit funny because they're so brief.
Yeah, there's a visual and also processional world to this, and music is mentioned. You know, that you know, if you just run the dialogue straight through at reasonable pace, this is only about 90 minutes long. You know, there must be more going on around this, and there are clues to that. I think another point to make is that Gardner makes a very good defence, brief though it is, of religious houses. I pray now, where is hospitality? Where is the social safety net that they used to represent? And it's sort of a shame that we don't really get more of that, and that seems to get cut off by other action. It's a very busy world that sort of everybody's bumping into each other. It's not like Woodstock last week, where the court and the other classes around were separated quite explicitly for most of the play. Here, they're sort of bumping into each other, left, right, and centre. Other thoughts, Liz?
No, I was thinking that was interesting actually. So he chooses the people to. He didn't really have any compunction about the taking away from people the places where they could go for a refuge, etc., into the monasteries or wherever. But I also thought there's like a little morality story with Frescobaldi and Bannister, who are the object of generosity, and there is now a situation where Frescobaldi gets back the good he's done, to contrast with what's going to happen to Cromwell as well. It's funny. There's a little intercession to think, do unto others as you would have done to you, and it can work out because you can be on the receiving end of similar generosity, and then
It is interesting the various interplays of what's happening with money and good patronage, as well as just random generosity, as well as what's happening in the wider world. Any other thoughts before we move on? Okay, we have a short scene coming up. Let's run straight into it. We have two merchants, merchant number 1 and merchant number 2, who have a deep and well-developed interior life, I'm sure. So, enter 2 servants, merchants rather.
Oh, Master Crosby, I see you have a care to keep your word in payment of your money.
By my faith, I have reason upon a bond. £3,000 is too much to forfeit. Yet I doubt not, Master Bannister.
Oh, by my faith, your sum is more than mine, and yet I am not much behind you, considering that today I paid at court.
Mass and well remembered. What's the reason the Lord Cromwell's men wear such long skirts upon their coats? They reach almost down to their very ham.
I will resolve you, sir, and thus it is. The Bishop of Winchester, that loves not Cromwell, as great men are envied, as well as less, a while ago there was a jar between them, and it was brought to my Lord Cromwell's ear that Bishop Gardiner would set on his skirt, upon which word he made his men long blue coats, and in the court wore one of them himself, and meeting with the bishop, quoth he, "My lord, here's skirt enough now for your grace to sit on," which vexed the bishop to the very heart. This is the reason why they wear long coats.
'Tis always seen, and mark it for a rule, that one great man will envy still another. But 'tis a thing that nothing concerns me. What, shall we now to Master Bannister's?
Aye, come, we'll pay him royally for our dinner.
And they exit. So it's an interesting sort of bonus of the world. We get some gossip. We get some gossip in the world about what's going on with the more tittle-tattle side of the argument between Cromwell and Gardiner.
I assume there's an entire raft of symbolism that's missed me entirely during that.
Well, what's the joke? What is the joke of this story beyond what's going on there?
I'm assuming sitting on his skirts is some sort of something.
Yes, Alexandra.
This may be entirely wrong, but I wonder if it means riding on his coattails.
It could be. It could be. I have got an opinion here in the footnote that it's about punishing severely or people or pressing hard upon. So sitting on people beneath you or something like that. It's not very clear. Is the point I wanted to make?
If you sit on someone's skirt, they can't progress forward. I thought.
It also means like you're pretty much on their heels.
Ah.
Well,
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it makes more sense. We'll sit on his skirt, as in Lord Cromwell's skirt, not his own.
Not his own, yeah.
Yeah, well, that.
Yeah, get off me foot.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to tarry very well. I mean, I get the idea, but it's not like we immediately go, ah.
Well, it's like
That'd
would
be an
hold him
expression
back.
that they would have known at the time.
Yeah, assume so. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure 400 years ago they were rolling in the aisles.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, the scene doesn't necessarily have to be hilarious. It's two people telling a bad joke to each other, isn't it? They don't have to be. The joke doesn't have to land. It just needs to be clear. And I think that's where we're struggling. Is we sort of get the joke, but we're not getting it. If that makes sense.
I thought it might just be a fat joke, and that was really appropriate.
Your bishop's so fat now.
Okay, I think we've possibly got the most out of that. It is interesting that they're referring to the Master Bannister. We're referring to various characters. We're getting a sense of stuff going on. I think we're just going to move, however, swiftly forwards because it's the return of Frisky Ball, people. Yes, there's more Frisky Ball to come. So after that bridge scene, as I think we might call it, Act 4, Scene 4, enter the usher and the sewer, and the meat goes over the stage. Have I given anyone out to be an usher? Someone jump in.
Me, I haven't got anything to read in this scene.
Go for it.
Uncover there, gentlemen.
Enter Cromwell, Bedford, Suffolk, Old Cromwell, Frisky Ball, Goodman Seeley, and attendants.
My noble lords of Suffolk and of Bedford, your honour's welcome to poor Cromwell's house. Where is my father? Nay, be covered, father. Although that duty to these noble men doth challenge it, yet I'll make bold with them. Your head doth bear the calendar of care. What, Cromwell covered and his father bare? It must not be. Now, sir, to you. Is not your name Friskyball and a Florentine?
My name was Friskyball till cruel fate did rob me of my name and of my state.
What fortune brought you to this country now?
All other parts hath left me succourless, save only this. Because of debts I have, I hope to gain for to relieve my want.
Did you not once, upon your Florence bridge, help two distressed men robbed by the bandetti? His name was Cromwell.
I never made my brain a calendar of any good I did. I always loved this nation with my heart.
I am that Cromwell that you there relieved. 16 ducats you gave me for to clothe me, 16 to bear my charges by the way, and 16 more I had for my horse hire. There be those several sums justly returned, yet with injustice serving at my need, and to repay them without interest. Therefore, receive of me these 4 several bags. In each of them there is 400 mark, and bring me the name of all your debtors. And if they will not see you paid, I will. Oh, God forbid that I should see him fall that helped me in my greatest need of all. Here stands my father that first gave me life. Alas, what duty is too much for him? This man in time of need did save my life, and therefore I cannot do too much for him. But this old man I oftentimes was fed, else might I have gone supperless to bed. Such kindness have I had of these 3 men, that Cromwell no way can repay again. Now, into dinner, for we stay too long, and to good stomachs is no greater wrong.
And they exit, and Sarah gets the scene she was hoping for. You were saying earlier you were hoping they were all going to get together, and lo, and behold, it's fine. Anyone else still getting the noise from earlier? Just checking. David indicates he was on chat. Are you okay?
No, I'm still getting it. I think it's me.
Ah, right.
Oh.
I'll have a look. I'll dip out for a bit and I'll have a look.
Okie dokie. So yeah, I like the ta-da moment with Cromwell there of the here's the money, and nice. But it's still, the play is still so much more interested in the other world of Thomas Cromwell. It's not very interested. It's like the politics is happening in another room, and we're just catching moments of it. and that there's a very separate world to, and I'm assuming that perhaps it's because they don't want to do too much of the politics at the time of writing this play, that they're not quite far enough removed from it yet, and so they're focusing on Cromwell as this virtuous person and this good deeds coming round again kind of thing. Thoughts? Wave at me.
Yes, I had a. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. If you got away with it, keep going.
Sorry. I had a problem in knowing who the third person was, but it's Seeley,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's so
The
you've
guy,
got. Yeah.
The guy he mooched the cheesecake off.
Yes.
His wife.
His old the landlord or whatever it was.
Yes, the
Seeley
three.
and his wife.
Mm.
So he's got his dad there. He's got Frisky Ball and Seeley. So bless. Other thoughts?
Well, that might have sat badly with the other ones who came in with him to have his father. He said to his father he doesn't have to take his hat off to them. That must have been quite something.
Yeah, it's like his father starts taking his hat off. No, you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's his dad, and he loves his dad, and his dad loves him.
Yes.
Yes.
First line of Wolf Hall. Anyway, for those who haven't read the book, it's when Thomas is getting the living daylights beaten out of him by his father.
Yeah.
So it's a very different interpretation. Happy days. Okay, I think the next scene is going to be quite different. Okay, this is the nice calm before the storm. So eyes down for some more gardener action. We've got lots of random people. We have a servant. We've got two witnesses who are going to be coming into this scene. Suffolk and Norfolk are going to be coming on later on. So Bedford will make a reappearance. So there's a good selection of the court turning up here. The scene, Act 4, Scene 5, opens with Gardiner in his study and his man.
Sarah, where be those men I caused to stay?
They do attend your pleasure, sir, within.
Bid them come hither, and stay you without. For by those men the fox of this same land, that makes a goose of better than himself, will work him unto his latest home, or Gardiner will fail in his intent. As for the Dukes of Suffolk and Norfolk, whom I have sent for to come speak with me, howsoever outwardly they shadow it, yet in their hearts I know they love him not. As for the Earl of Bedford, he is but one, and dares not gainsay what we do set down.
Enter two witnesses.
My friends, you know I saved your lives, when by the law you had deserved death. And then you promised me upon your oaths to venture both your lives to do me good.
We swore no more than that we will perform.
I take your words, and that which you must do is service for your God and for your king, to root a rebel from this flourishing land, one that's an enemy unto the church, and therefore must you take your solemn oaths that you heard Cromwell, the Lord Chancellor, did wish a dagger at King Henry's heart. Fear not to swear it, for I heard him speak it. Therefore we'll shield you from ensuing harms.
If you will warrant us the deed is good, we'll undertake it.
Kneel down, and I will here absolve you both. This crucifix I lay upon your head, and sprinkle holy water on your brows. The deed is meritorious that you do, and by it shall you purchase grace from heaven.
Now, sir, we'll undertake it by our souls.
Cromwell never loved none of our sort.
I know he doth not, and for both of you, I will prefer you to some place of worth. Now get you in until I call for you. For presently the Duke's means The Duke means to be here.
And exit the two witnesses.
Cromwell, sit fast. Thy time's not long to reign. The abbeys that were pulled down by thy means is now a mean for me to pull thee down. Thy pride also thy own head lights upon, for thou art he hath changed religion. But now no more, for here the dukes are come.
And enter Suffolk, Norfolk, and the Earl of Bedford.
Godden to my Lord Bishop.
How fares my lord? What, are you all alone?
No, not alone, my lords, my mind is troubled. I know your honours muse wherefore I sent, and in such haste. What, came you from the king?
We did, and left none but Lord Cromwell with him.
Oh, what a dangerous time is this we live in. There's Thomas Wolsey, he's already gone, and Thomas More, he followed after him. Another Thomas yet there doth remain. That is far worse than either of those twain. And if with speed, my lords, we not pursue it, I fear the king and all the land will rue it.
Another Thomas, I pray God it be not Cromwell.
My lord of Bedford, it is that traitor Cromwell.
Is Cromwell false? My heart will never think it.
My Lord of Winchester, what likelihood or proof have you of his treachery?
My lord, too much. Call in the men within.
And enter the witnesses.
These men, my lord, upon their oaths affirm that they did hear Lord Cromwell in his garden, wished a dagger sticking at the heart of our King Henry. What is this but treason?
If it be so, my heart doth bleed with sorrow.
How say you, friends? What? Did you hear these words?
We did, and like your grace.
In what place was Lord Cromwell when he spake them?
In his garden, where we did attend a suit, which we had waited for 2 year and more.
How long is since you heard him speak these words?
Some half year since.
How chance that you concealed it all this time?
His greatness made us fear, that was the cause.
Aye, his greatness, that's the cause indeed, and to make his treason he more manifest, he calls his servants to him round about, tells him of Wolsey's life and of his fall, says that himself hath many enemies, and gives to some of them a park or manor, to others leases lands, to others some. What need he do thus in his prime of life, and if he were not fearful of his death?
My lord, these likelihoods are very great.
Pardon me, lords, for I must needs depart. Their proofs are great, but greater is my heart.
And exit Bedford.
My friends, take heed of that which you have said. Your souls must answer what your tongues report. Therefore take heed. Be wary what you do.
My lord, we speak no more but truth.
Let them depart. My Lord of Winchester, let these men be close kept until the day of trial.
They shall, my lord. Ho, take in these two men.
And exit the witnesses.
My lords, if Cromwell have a public trial, that which we do is void by his denial. You know the king will credit none but him.
'Tis true. He rules the king even as he pleases.
How shall we do for attach him then?
Marry, my lords, thus. By an act he made himself, with an intent to entrap some of our lives, and this it is. If any counsellor be convicted of high treason, he shall be executed without a public trial. This act, my lords, he caused the king to make.
I did indeed, and I remember it. Now it is like to fall upon himself.
Let us not slack it. 'Tis for England's good. We must be wary, else he'll go beyond us.
Well hath your grace said, my lord of Norfolk. Therefore let us presently to Lambeth. Thither comes Cromwell from the court tonight. Let us arrest him, send him to the Tower, and in the morning cut off the traitor's head.
Come then, about it, let us guard the town. This is the day that Cromwell must go down.
Along, my lords. Well, Cromwell is half dead. He shaked my heart, but I will shave his head.
And they go off, content in their plotting. It's obviously not very healthy to go around with the name Thomas. That lovely list of Thomases that went before, and this is the Thomas that goes after. I like that Gardner basically brings on two people and just goes, "You owe me. This is the price of your lives. But don't worry, I'm going to absolve you before you do the guilty thing." And it's that thing, we can't have a trial, who'll get away with it. So we're going to have to use a law that he himself wrote. We're going to hoist him by his own petard, as it were. Thoughts? No Cromwell in this.
It's an anti-Catholic play.
Indeed. Tamara.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's everything that, Luther said was bad about Catholicism, with the absolution before the crime, and you can buy your way out, and as long as a churchman does something to you, you're forgiven and you're fine.
Yes, Alexandra, did I see your hand?
Yes, on the Catholicism, anti-Catholicism front, there was that wonderful little casual line earlier of, "Oh, you've done a terrible thing." What? Eliminate the Antichrist? Yeah. My impression was that what Gardner said to the witnesses was, "This is a true thing. I witnessed it. You go and say it, and don't worry about its veracity, because I definitely heard him." And they go, "Yeah, okay."
That's true, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they seem to be very easy to convince, but it's interesting that he's sort of using his position a little bit, but he's not, he genuinely persuades them. He doesn't, I don't know what the word is, compel them. They actually, everyone but him actually believes that this is a true thing. Both the witnesses and the people who then hear the witness statements.
Well, it's interesting. Gardner makes a big thing of the greatness of Cromwell. He's grown so great. His greatness, that's the cause indeed. And the witnesses are saying that as well. And it's to Norfolk and Suffolk and any politician going, well, he's got an awful lot of power. Maybe it would be good if he didn't have a lot of power, because we would like some power. Is a really good way of selling it. Other thoughts?
Yes, the witnesses, they're very vague, aren't they? I mean, they're very, Norfolk and Suffolk are very quick to be persuaded. It's just...
But Bedford isn't.
Complete set of... No, well...
Bedford, because he's his mate, is his mate.
Well, doesn't take long.
It's interesting at the beginning of this scene what they say about Bedford, because they're kind of go like, well, he can't do anything because it's three against one. He's not going to act on it.
And again, we have this reference to the king as absent, and we've got to do this without the king knowing. Let's make sure the king is definitely not to blame for killing this really nice bloke that we've spent an hour or so bigging up. It's definitely not the king's fault, guys. Yeah, right. Final thoughts before we move into Act 5, Sarah?
On that thought as well, about the fact that nothing's ever the king's fault, I did just love the way Thomas More's execution was just neatly dealt with in one throwaway line of Gardner's speech. It's like, oh yeah, he's gone. It's like, okay, that's it's a bit like Wolsey's death earlier. It's just there's another whole 5 years just galloped through a whole, plot that various people are going to write about in years to come. Just
gone. We met him once. We met Wolsey at the same time. They both died randomly with very little fanfare. Alexandra.
This is an oblique reference to He Who Must Not Be Named, so I hope you will allow it. Are we watching Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead?
I don't think so, but I'm gonna go anyway.
But in the sense of, are we potentially watching, whether it was intentionally structured in that sort of comedic manner, or whether it's just accidental? Are we watching the backstage version of the great historical events? Is this play kind of doing that on purpose?
We're not seeing the trial, we're seeing everything else. We're not seeing the main action, we're seeing all the stuff that happens around it. Maybe. Helen?
Yeah, actually, I think that's quite a good point. But my point was, there's a place of Sir Thomas More.
There is.
Does all seem to be happening off stage.
Where the Reformation is really, really fast. There are 4 of them sitting at the table. A man comes in and says, here's the king's decision, everybody sign it. And 2 of them sign it furiously quickly. One guy says, ooh, no, can't sign that. And that turns out to be Fisher, so they take him away. And then Thomas More says, I'm going to have to think about this one. And that's the Reformation. I mean, it really, really, if you blink, you miss it.
Yeah.
I'll swear, the only time I've seen it performed, I will swear that the majority of the audience hadn't a clue what was in the paper that was being put in front of them.
The audience missed the Reformation. And
Yep.
I'm going to have to move this forward because we've still got Act 5 to get through and time is pressing. So I'm going to press us into the reappearance of Bedford alone, Bedford solus.
My soul is like a water troubled, and guardian is the man that makes it so. Oh, Cromwell, I do fear thy end is near, yet I'll prevent their malice if I can. And in good time, see where the man doth come, who little knows how near is day of doom.
Enter Cromwell with his train. Bedford makes as though he would speak to him. He goes on.
You're well encountered, my good lord of Bedford. I see your honour is addressed to talk. Pray pardon me. I am sent for to the king, and do not know the business yet myself. So fare ye well, for I must needs be gone.
And exits the train.
You must. Well, what remedy? I fear too soon you must be gone indeed. The king hath business, but little dost thou know, who's busy for thy life. Thou thinkst not so.
Enter Cromwell and his train again.
The second time well met, my lord of Bedford. I am very sorry that my haste is such. Lord Marcus Dorset being sick to death, I must receive of him the privy seal. At Lambeth soon, my lord, we'll talk our fill.
And exit the train again.
How smooth and easy is the way to death.
Enter a servant.
My lord, the Dukes of Norfolk and Suffolk, accompanied with the Bishop of Winchester, entreat you to come presently to Lambeth on earnest matters that concern the state.
To Lambeth. So, go fetch me pen and ink. I and Lord Cromwell there shall talk enough. I and our last, I fear, and if he come.
And he writes a letter.
Here, take this letter, and bear it to Lord Cromwell. Bid him read it. Say it concerns him near. Away, be gone, make all the haste you can. To Lambeth do I go, a woeful man.
And we're going to move straight into the next scene, because once again, enter Cromwell and his train.
Is the barge ready? I will straight to Lambeth. And if this one day's business once were past, I'd take my ease tomorrow after trouble. How now, my friend? Wouldst thou speak with me?
For the messenger has brought the letter, and he puts it in his pocket.
Sir, here's a letter from my lord of Bedford.
Oh, good, my friend. Commend me to thy lord. Hold, take these angels, drink them for thy pains.
He doth desire your grace to read it, because he said it doth concern you near.
Bid him assure himself of that. Farewell. Tomorrow, tell him, shall he hear from me. Set on before that, and away to Lambeth.
And he exits. Just going to pause there. It's a montage scene again, isn't it? It's the kind of thing that would work really well as a film adaptation with all this stuff going on. And still could work very effectively on stage, but read like this, it just comes across as comic because it's just, especially as we read the word train and we immediately hear choo-choo in the background, which of course is not what's going on. One thought from before we move forward, Simon, I think.
No, it was actually to pick up on what you said. It's just the letter thing is the best bit because presumably he writes down something that's not 3 words. So I'm just wondering what on earth they did to cover that on stage. Presumably the messenger's just waiting there on stage while a letter's written in 2 minutes, which would be very brave.
Well, you could write it in pencil and it could just simply, they're coming to get you, hide. I mean, it doesn't actually have to be very complex.
Done.
To be honest, Bedford isn't really trying, is he? He's not very effectual. Then he needed to be rescued by Baldric last time, so God only knows if he's got any wits. I'm going to move us forward, however. So, moving into the next scene 3. We have the entrance of Winchester, Suffolk, Norfolk, Bedford, Sergeant-at-Arms, the Herald, Halberts, etc.
Halberts, stand close unto the waterside. Sergeant-at-Arms, be bold in your office. Herald, deliver your proclamation.
This is to give notice to all the king's subjects, the late Lord Cromwell, Lord Chancellor of England, Vicar General over the realm, him to hold and esteem as a traitor against the crown and dignity of England. So God save the king.
Amen.
Amen. And root thee from the land, for whilst thou livest, truth cannot stand.
Make a lane there, the traitors at hand. Keep back Cromwell's men, drown them if they come on. Sergeant, your office.
Enter Cromwell. They make a lane for him with their halberds.
What means my Lord of Norfolk by these words? Sirs, come along.
Kill them if they come on.
Lord Cromwell, in King Henry's name, I do arrest your honour of high treason.
Sergeant, me, of treason.
Cromwell's men offer to draw.
Kill them if they draw a sword.
Hold, I charge you. As you love me, draw not a sword. Who dares accuse Cromwell of treason now?
This is no place to reckon up your crime. Your dove-like looks were viewed with serpent's eyes.
With serpent's eyes, indeed, by thine they were. But, Gardener, do thy worst, I fear thee not. My faith, compared with thine, as much shall pass, as doth the diamond excel the glass. Attached of treason, no accusers by. Indeed, what tongue dares speak so foul a lie?
My lord, matters are too well known, and it is time the king had note thereof.
The king? Let me go to him face to face. No better trial I desire than that. Let him but say that Cromwell's faith was feigned. Then let my honour and my name be stained, if ever my heart against my king was set. Oh, let my soul in judgment answer it. Then, if my faith's confirmed with his reason, 'gainst whom hath Cromwell then committed treason?
My lord, your matter shall be tried. Meantime, with patience content yourself.
Perforce I must with patience be content. Oh, dear friend Bedford, dost thou stand so near? Cromwell with rejoiceth, one friend sheds a tear, and whether is't? Which way must Cromwell now?
My lord, you must unto the tower. Lieutenant, take him to your charge.
Well, where you please. Yet before I part, let me confer a little with my men.
As you go by water, so you shall.
I have some business present to impart.
You may not stay, Lieutenant. Take your charge.
Well, well, my lord, you second Gardiner's text. Norfolk, farewell. Thy turn will be the next.
Exit Cromwell and the lieutenant.
His guilty conscience makes him rave, my lord.
Aye, let him talk. His time is short enough.
My lord of Bedford, come, you weep for him. That would not shed half a tear for you.
It grieves me for to see his sudden fall.
Such success wish I to traitors still.
And so ends what is essentially a sequence of scenes. All of those scenes are effectively the same action overlapping. Again, we've got a really nice visual picture there with the line of soldiers forcing him along a path, separating him from his men, potential physical action held off, the crying of his mate for him. It's all very, very sad. I'm afraid I'm going to keep forcing the pace forward for a little bit longer. So another scene. Immediately after this dramatic action, we have two incredibly well-drawn citizens once again entering to have a chat. Enter two citizens.
Why, can this news be true? Is it possible? The great Lord Cromwell arrested upon treason? I hardly will believe it can be so.
It is too true, sir. Would it were otherwise. Condition I spent half the wealth I had. I was at Lambeth, saw him there arrested, and afterward committed to the Tower.
What? Was 't for treason that he was committed?
Kind, noble gentleman, I may rue the time. All that I have I did enjoy by him. And if he die, then all my state is gone.
It may be doubted that he shall not die, because the king did favour him so much.
Oh, sir, you are deceived in thinking so. The grace and favour he had with the king hath caused him have so many enemies. He in that court secure will keep himself, must not be great, for then he's envied at. The shrub is safe, when as the cedar shakes, for where the king doth love above compare, of others they much more envied are.
'Tis pity that this noble man should fall. He did so many charitable deeds.
'Tis true, and yet you see in each estate there's none so good, but someone doth him hate. And they before would smile him in the face, will be the foremost to do him disgrace. What, will you along to the court?
I care not if I do, and hear the news, how men will judge what shall become of him.
Some will speak hardly, some will speak in pity. Go you to the court, I'll unto the city, where I am sure to hear more news than you.
Why then, soon will we meet again.
Hear all about it. The second one feels very much like a news seller, actually. If I was doing it the modern, with a couple of minor cuts, I could definitely do it as a newspaper seller and someone buying the news. Again, a nice linking passage before we go into the final scene. Thoughts about the sort of progression of Act 5 to this point, very briefly? Any thoughts in the room? Weave or jump in.
It could go either way. Except that the chorus has told us it won't.
Yes.
If it wasn't for the chorus, it could go either way.
Is there? We've talked about. Is there any tension or any fear in the first half and the second half? Where there is something at stake. I mean, we've had quite a lot of action. It's been quite busy and quite exciting. This second half, or bits of it. Liz?
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make, that there is suspense. Even though we know what's going to happen, there is still suspense. Whereas the first bit that we read yesterday, it seems to be something completely different. And there was no suspense in that whatsoever, really. And this is far more exciting, even though we know the outcome.
Simon?
Yeah, I was just wondering just how contentious this would have been, because we said about obviously the Queen Elizabeth still alive at this point, but to kind of overtly say that this is maybe a miscarriage of justice, which it does seem that is quite overt in this, that he's been set up when the king can do no wrong. Of course, the king is not very mentioned. I'm just wondering how this would have gone down, because if you say that this is a man that shouldn't have been put to death, of course he was, and we know why historically. Isn't that an overt criticism of the king? It's quite an interesting thing as to how this would have gone down.
Go with David first.
I think it be seen as a popish plot as opposed to a fault in the king.
They're setting Gardner up as the person plotting here. It's all Gardner in this play. Helen.
Yeah, Gardner became Mary's Lord Chancellor.
Oh, right.
Gardner is very much in their minds, and in Fox's Book of Martyrs, which is the book they would all know, Gardner is a bad man.
And the play explicitly says it's not the king, it's Gardner not telling the king and trying to make sure there is no redress to the king all the way through. So the king is...
Yeah. And also, I mean, I can never work out which Norfolk these various Norfolks are, because there were an awful lot of Dukes of Norfolk, but they almost inevitably were executed sooner or later.
Yes, and we've got that line of "you're next" as he's taken off, isn't it? And he's doing that to Norfolk, and it's it's.
Well, I don't think Henry VIII executed a Norfolk, but I could be wrong there. He certainly imprisoned him.
Okay, I'm going to force the pace one last chance because we've got one scene to go. It is the final scene. There is no other scene to go. And I want to try and get through it before extra time. So, somber faces, people. Enter Cromwell in the tower.
Now, Cromwell, hast thou time to meditate and think upon thy state, and of the time thy honours came unsought, aye, and unlooked for, thy fall as sudden, and unlooked for too. What glory was in England that I had not? Who in this land commanded more than Cromwell, except the king, who greater than myself? But now I see what after ages shall the greater men, more sudden is their fall. And now do I remember the Earl of Bedford was very desirous for to speak to me, and afterward sent to me a letter, the which I think I have still in my pocket. Now may I read it, for I now have leisure, and this I take it is.
He reads the letter.
My lord, come not this night to Lambeth, for if you do, your state is overthrown, and much I doubt your life. And if you come, then if you love yourself, stay where you are. Oh God, had I but read this letter, then had I been free from the lion's paw. Deferring this to read until tomorrow, I spurned at joy and did embrace my sorrow.
Enter the lieutenant of the tower and officers, etc.
Now, Master Lieutenant, when's this day of death?
Alas, my lord, would I might never see it. Here are the Dukes of Suffolk and Norfolk, Winchester, Bedford, and Sir Richard Ratcliffe, with others. But why they come, I know not.
No matter wherefore, Cromwell is prepared, for Gardner has my state and life ensnared. Bid them come in, or you shall do them wrong, for here stands he whom some thinks lives too long. Learning kills learning, and instead of ink to dip his pen, Cromwell's heart blood doth drink.
Enter all the nobles.
Good morrow, Cromwell. What, alone? So sad.
One good among you. None of you are bad. For my part, it best fits me be alone. Sadness with me, not I with any one. What, is the king acquainted with my cause?
We have, and he hath answered us, my lord.
How? Shall I come to speak with him myself?
The king is so advertised of your guilt, he will by no means admit you to his presence.
No way admit me. Am I so soon forgot? Did he but yesterday embrace my neck and said that Cromwell was even half himself? And is his princely ears so much bewitched with scandalous ignominy and slanderous speeches that now he doeth deny to look on me? Well, my Lord of Winchester, no doubt but you are much in favour with his majesty. Will you bear a letter from me to his grace?
Pardon me, I'll bear no traitor's letters.
Will you do this kindness then? Tell him by word of mouth what I shall say to you.
That will I.
But on your honour, will you?
Aye, on my honour.
Bear witness, lords. Tell him when he hath known you and tried your fate but half so much as mine, he'll find you to be the falsest hearted man in England. Pray, tell him this.
Be patient, good my lord, in these extremes.
My kind and honourable Lord of Bedford, I know your honour always loved me well. But pardon me, this still shall be my theme. Gardiner is the cause makes Cromwell so extreme. Sir Ralph Sadler, pray, a word with you. You were my man, and all that you possess came by my means. To requite all this, will you take this letter here of me and give it with your own hands to the king?
I kiss your hand, and never will I rest ere to the king this will be delivered.
And exit Sadler.
Why, yet Cromwell hath one friend in store.
But all the haste he makes shall be but vain. Here's a discharge for your prisoner, to see him executed presently. My lord, you hear the tenor of your life.
I do embrace it. Welcome my last date, and of this glistering world I take last leave. And noble lords, I take my leave of you, as willingly I go to meet with death, as Gardiner did pronounce it with his breath. From treason is my heart as white as snow, my death only procured by my foe. I pray, commend me to my sovereign king, and tell him in what sort his Cromwell died, to lose his head before his cause were tried. But let his grace, when he shall hear my name, say only this: Gardiner procured the same.
Enter young Cromwell.
Here's your son come to take his leave.
To take his leave? Come hither, Harry Cromwell. Mark, boy, the last words that I speak to thee. Flatter not fortune, neither fawn upon her. Gape not for state, yet lose no spark of honour. Ambition, like the plague, see thou eschew it. I die for treason, boy, and never knew it. Yet let thy faith as spotless be as mine, and Cromwell's virtues in thy face shall shine. Come, go along and see me leave my breath, and I'll leave thee upon the flower of death.
Oh, father, I shall die to see that wound. Your blood being spilt will make my heart to sound.
How, boy? Not look upon the axe? How shall I do then to have my head stroke off? Come on, my child, and see the end of all, and after say that Gardiner was my fall.
My lord, you speak it of an envious heart. I have done no more than law and equity.
Oh, good my lord of Winchester, forbear. It would better seem you to be in absent than with your words disturb a dying man.
Who, me, my lord? No, he disturbs not me. My mind he stirs not, though his mighty shock hath brought more peer heads down to the block. Farewell, my boy. All Cromwell can bequeath my hearty blessing. So I take my leave.
I am your death's man. Pray, my lord, forgive me.
Even with my soul. Why, man, thou art my doctor, and brings me precious physic for my soul. My lord of Bedford, I desire of you before my death a corporeal embrace.
And Bedford goes to him, and Cromwell embraces him.
Farewell, great lord. My love I do commend my heart to you, my soul to heaven I send. This is my joy, that ere my body fleet, your honoured arms is my true winding sheet. Farewell, dear Bedford. My peace is made in heaven. Thus falls great Cromwell, a poor eel in length, to rise to unmeasured height, winged with new strength. The land of worms, which dying men discover, my soul is shrined with heaven's celestial cover.
Exit Cromwell and the officers and others.
Well, farewell, Cromwell, the truest friend that e'er Bedford shall possess again. Well, lords, I fear when this man is dead, you'll wish in vain that Cromwell had a head.
which is an unfortunate turn of phrase because enter one with Cromwell's head.
Here is the head of the deceased Cromwell.
Brady, your hand can bear his head away unto his body. Inter them both in clay.
Enter Sir Ralph Sadler.
Oh no, my lords, what, is Lord Cromwell dead?
Lord Cromwell's body now doth want a head.
Oh God, a little speed had saved his life. Here is a kind reprieve come from the king to bring him straight unto his majesty.
Aye, Sir Ralph. The reprieves come now too late.
My conscience now tells me this deed was ill. Would Christ that Cromwell were alive again.
Come, let us to the king, whom well I know will grieve for Cromwell that his death was so.
And they exit. Okay.
Wow.
I think there is a point here that in context with aware of the elephant traps that this end of the scene does present us with, that there is room for manoeuvre here, not to get the laughter that we have just brought out. I've written in my script basically, careful now. I mean, Gardiner's line there, when they come in and say, you know, here's the reprieve from the king, I mean, what else is Gardiner going to say except, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, bugger.
Oops. Yeah.
The hangman's line, one line there of which is very much the sort of standard practice. You're supposed to forgive your executioner and things. It's interesting that Cromwell's names his son Harry, which is not true. His name was Greg. So that's an interesting little thing there. And stuff. I mean, there's lots of really nice things in that. Actually, the sort of final sparring, the irony there of that letter. 4 lines, Simon. He has to write 4 lines. We know how many words he's got to get out there.
20 seconds of stage time.
He might be writing in shorthand. You know, he's get it down.
Yeah.
And again, we have this thing about great men and their fall. You know, you have to be a great man to fall, otherwise you're just already there in the dirt. Final thoughts, people, about the whole play, or just this scene that we've just done, or this little act for that matter. Waggle those digits. Alexandra, you got in first.
Regarding the complete, regarding today's half, I should like to apologise to the Italian in the room for my accent for Frescobaldi. That's my comment.
Simon.
No, I was just going to say, it's all, I'm no great expert on the life of Cromwell, but whenever I encounter him in anything, I always feel incredibly sad because it's just the typical thing where, you know, somebody who rises above their state. It's Sharp, basically, if anyone remembers Sharp, and all the knobs are always trying to put him back in his place. But it's the same kind of, it's that story. It's just that's what always comes from anything with Cromwell for me, is that you know, they done him in, didn't they? Jealousy.
Working man made good, therefore must die.
That's exactly, yeah.
Other thoughts, Helen?
Gardner gets to be played by Mark Gatiss.
Yes. Oh well.
Rather nicely, actually. Brings out the real unpleasantness of the man.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way that Cromwell just goes to his son. Look, remember that man over there? Yeah, him. He killed me. It's him. It's all Gardner. Definitely not the king. David.
It cracks along as a play. It's got a lot of pace. It moves really quickly. I like that.
Oh, it's not designed as a long, thoughtful. It's not trying to be. I mean, that's the thing, is we shouldn't be sitting here going, well, it should have been deeper or broader or what, you know. I think it's not trying to be. It is a short play and it fits an awful lot in. Anyone else before? Liz first.
Yeah, I just think it's lucky that Sadler gets away with the letter. I mean, it's quite surprising, really, that he is allowed to leave the room. But that sets it up rather nicely for the following chapter, if there is one, when there is one.
We don't know that he got away from the tower, though.
No, we don't. But
He
Well,
got out of the room.
I think it's setting it up for the yeah.
I think also that the conversation he has when he asks him to go to the king, I'm wondering if that's sort of done in a way so that other people in the room don't notice and things like
Yeah,
that.
well, probably. Yeah.
Tamara, I saw a hand.
I felt a little bit like it was two different plays.
Likewise.
I felt like today we moved at breakneck speed, and even though yesterday was very speedy as well, there was a lot that was packed in there. At the same time, it felt a bit more like they were going down tangents, in a sense, and it almost felt like in my head, like there's two plays, one of which is the rise of Cromwell, and the other one is the tragedy that ends up happening that we read today, so to speak.
I may come back to that point in a moment. Helen.
I took it that the Ralph Sadler letter was what procured the reprieve.
Yeah.
Also, I think the big central problem with this second half is the absence of Hodge. I mean, we barely get to see him. And there should have been, instead of possibly all the big reconciliation stuff, I think there was room for a nice Hodge scene instead.
Well, Hodge for me made the reading yesterday, frankly.
The comic part of Hodge is fantastic. Absolutely love that. Other thoughts? We're running low on time. Alexandra.
Sorry, no, Alan had something before me.
Alan?
Yeah, there were a couple of points that I noted during it. One, there was that speech when Gardner is accusing Cromwell of being an enemy of religion, used in a rather specialised case of the phrase. Cromwell, I believe, was actually a fairly ardent Protestant reformer. So his enmity was to the establishment of the old regime church, which Gardner is the representative of, rather than to religion as such. Now, my source for that is indirect, in as much as it's the Sansom novels about Childlake, which I'm very fond of. But I assume that those are reasonably well researched.
You assume wrongly.
Oh. That's news, maybe source for discussion elsewhere. The other point that I came up with is shortly after that, the sequence about the robes and sitting on skirts. And I wonder whether there's a link there that the lawyer's robes or barrister's robes have a pocket in the tail so that fees could be passed without actually money changing hands.
Wow.
I don't know if anyone else in the room knows anything on that front.
It's true.
Yeah?
It's true. The barristers were gentlemen. And so you couldn't actually give them money. I mean, barristers are not allowed to sue for their fees, I believe, still. It certainly used to be the case.
Other thoughts in the room? Anyone who's not really said very much so far want to jump in? General thoughts? Sarah?
That pardon that Ray Sadler brings in at the end there.
The last minute too late reprieve.
The last minute too late reprieve. I mean, that just made me. I was on silent, but it made me howl because I was like, oh, like I assume the point of that was to underline the fact that Henry had nothing to do with this, and once he realised what was going on, of course he would pardon his loyal first minister. And then also, is it kind of a way of contracting time? Because I believe Henry did say, didn't he, 6 months later or whatever, or maybe not even that long after, that he regretted that he'd ordered the execution of Cromwell. So is that kind of a way of making a nod to that, getting it in the play, sort of, or is it just a gratuitous, oh, we need to keep the king out of this because he's marvelous kind of?
I think it's probably both. We've I think we had off camera, we had some discussions about how some of the events that happened in the first half have some seed in actual event. And that, even the stuff we were going, surely that's got nothing to do with truth. That actually there might be nuggets of history in there. I mean, it does feel, again, it feels like a movie script. It feels like a film script in the sense that this is a very conventional ending to any kind of miscarriage of justice drama, where the reprieve is coming. Is he going to be executed? Is he going to make it? The needles going in the lethal injection, and then cut to and depending which way the editor wants it to go, it goes one way or another. Valentina, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I was really surprised by that. It also that scene where his career progresses quite quickly. It just keeps reminding me of like the Snatch, of like film sequences where like everything just happens in symbolism, and then you get something happening actually on stage. I wonder how that could be done on stage, because it's just, yeah.
I think this kind of, there's a lot that we don't have in terms of how they would be doing that. I mean, I think it's actually quite a dynamic sequence, but it needs work, and money.
As always.
Yes. Spectacle costs. And, question of if we got some music is mentioned very explicitly, but presumably there's also more, not music for more, but just more music, and things. Alexandra?
Yeah, I was going to say earlier, having mentioned this, I kind of can't now unsee it, because we see so much of what Cromwell is and very little of what he does. Is it possible that the intentional perspective here is on, let's call them the offstage events in his life, meanwhile over there at out of court events in his life. So, meanwhile at court, things are occurring and he's rising and people are dying and, important things. But actually what you should know about Cromwell is that he's nice to Frescobaldi. What you should know about him is that he's, is who he is in private. Interestingly, we never see any of his family or his home life, other than his father at the beginning and then brought back midway, and just at the end his son and Sadler. So I was wondering about that, about if this is a notion of perspective, of let's not look at his life at court, let's look at his private life, I guess, or his, I don't know, it's a very specific segment of the world that he interacts with, that is the only segment that we see. And yeah, I was wondering about why we never see sort of nothing of his private life.
It's all about, his niceness and giving money. That seems to be the only thing that we really catch on to. Sarah?
I'm wondering, just off what Alex said there, that narrow segment that we see, that's neither the court, but it's not his private home life either. It's basically, it's his interaction with merchants, isn't it? And the law. And I'm wondering, is that because that's the class of people who would mainly have been going to see this play?
Very possibly.
Yeah.
But not necessarily exclusively.
No, but yeah, just occurred to me just from what Alex said, because it is all very, very centered on a very particular strata, which is interesting.
Any other final thoughts, Pamela, as you were the man himself?
I'm kind of just still fixated on what Tamara said and the idea of it being like two separate plays. And I'm not sure. I'd love to actually see it and see how it works on stage. But yeah.
Well, that is quite a good segue for my wrapping up. So, there are a couple of things that I'm quite glad that people are bringing up. You know, it feels like two separate plays. It is a thought that has been professed before. So around about the same time as this play came out, Henslow's did a two-part play on Wolsey. One of the other available figures from the same time. In two parts, and then there's a thought that this play is commissioned in part to sort of tie in or catch in on interest that's happening in a rival playhouse, and that there's the possibility that this was a two-part play that has been condensed. I don't actually fully buy that myself. There's one thing I think that works very much in its favour is the disappearance of Hodge. He feels like there's a whole Hodge play in the first half that's and that whole universe feels very separate. But in a sense, there's a consistency to its inconsistencies within the play. You know, we do have a tying up in the second half of all these characters we have met in the first half. But that is a theory that's gone forward. A final thought is also comparing it with Dr. Faustus, and if you compare some of Cromwell's dialogue, there's a couple of lines that reference things like sort of reaching high and above your station, and books, in fact, are mentioned very much at the very opening of the play, and that's something else that has also been mentioned by other commentators in the past, and Faustus, of course, was a reasonably popular play that might be about to be going into another spurt of revivals about the same time as this. Apart from that, we are out of time. I'd like to thank the readers of this play. I've enjoyed it for all its questions and issues that it's has brought up. It's a case of there's so much good material in here. It's just whether a production can wrestle it to the ground.